Welcome to Be Now for Wednesday, August 24th. I'm Don McLeod, and as usual, I'm joined by Fazelle Khan.
Hi, Don. How are you doing?
Good, Fazelle. So just a quick explanation to those who didn't actually see my video yesterday. The reason that we're going to Wednesday from Tuesday, it's probably just this week and possibly next week as well because of some conflicting scheduling. And last night we were basically wrapping up our students that we had. They were doing a presentation on what they were doing during the summer and some of the tasks that we had set out for them. So I think about a third of them showed up there because some are still in university and they were working remotely. But we'll get into that. That's on our agenda. But right now we're going to delve right into the manila envelope. What do we got there, Faz?
Again, Don, you just jumped right ahead. Let's go through the agenda.
Oh, you want to do the agenda? Okay. Well,
yeah. So there is the manila envelope.
Okay.
And then there is your favorite topic, the Bowman Barn Dougal. And as you might have heard, Jeff Bowman's not running again, so it's still an issue.
Yep, $1 million is a lot of money.
And then we're going to talk about our Canada summer jobs, which you already started to get into, and then the municipal election, right? Because we have our slate fixed, and so we can start talking about who's running, who's what their platform is, and all that kind of stuff.
All right, good enough.
So the manila envelope, Don, we have one this week.
That's our first on the agenda, Faz. First on the agenda. So let's see what we got.
So we have an Integrity Commissioner report on Mayor Brown.
Yep.
And Councillor Rowena Santos. That was our lead for the week.
Yeah, and both were dismissed by the Integrity Commissioner.
Yeah, surprise, surprise.
Surprise. So let's delve into the first one against Patrick Brown, because that's the most interesting according to my perspective. It was filed by Elaine Moore, who the 6 councillors and down to 5 were trying to install basically against the municipal act, even though some councillors, in the couple of council meetings later said, we didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, you did something wrong. You went against the municipal act, which clearly states you can't put someone in there until it's vacant. Anyway, this was Elaine Moore. She didn't get the seat. I guess sour grapes. What she did was she decided to file an Integrity Commissioner complaint against Patrick Brown, which is fine. Any citizen can do that. That's part of the process. The only problem is she linked it to a Rebel News article, and basically we all know the Rebel News journalistically is on a pretty low level, and no surprise there that the Integrity Commissioner looked at it and said there was no basis to this at all.
Yeah, and I think. And this is the new Integrity Commissioner, right? The Integrity Commissioner.
Well, it's the one from Peel, because I don't think we've hired one yet.
I think they might be the permanent one. Anyways, this is the one that was hired after the group of 6 councillors fired the one. And I think one of the issues they had with
billing
is, well, they say billing, but it's because she was always, whatever went to her regarding Patrick Brown always came back glowing, right? And
yeah, well, here's another
they linked her to him because they're in a photograph together.
Yeah, this is the same Integrity Commissioner, by the way, that's suing all the 6 councillors plus the city of Brampton on top of that.
Yeah, so this time it's their own Integrity Commissioner, the one that they had a hand in selecting, and came back and said, there's nothing there, right? Because they went through it all, and there, if you read some of the social media comments, oh yeah, but look at this comment, look at that comment. At the end of the day, the Integrity, that's her role or their role. And whatever they come out with, right? We went through an Integrity Commissioner. We were part of that, and it wasn't glowing on our part, but we said, you know what?
It is what it is. But I mean, here's the stupid thing. I mean, if you're an ex-councillor and you're taking Rebel News as the gospel, I mean, you're missing a few brain cells, to say the least.
Yeah.
What are you going to do next? Use Pravda as a, as a reliable source? Come on.
Yeah, so the mayor was cleared of using council staff for his leadership, federal leadership campaign, which, I think.
Yeah, and he put out there that basically he was waiting for an apology. Well, we know, and I know that there's no way that you're going to get an apology from that one. And the thing is, he didn't ask for a councillor apology, because I remember at the press conference that the group of 5, minus Doug Willens, who was a group of 4, basically said, and they brought up the fact that the Rebel News articles, implicitly stating at that press conference. And oh, by the way, Rebel News said that the mayor was using city staff, and this is just another example of the mayor running roughshod over democracy in Brampton. Blah 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 blah. Where's the apology of these councillors?
Yeah, they could just say whatever they want, right? Okay, so
Exactly.
the second integrity commission report, sorry, which I find more interesting, is the one that was against Councillor Santos. And so let's set this up. We have a video. This video, and it's interesting who this video is with, right? So you're going to hear Councillor Dillon. I don't even like to call that guy a councillor because we all know why. But it's part of the investigation that the Group of Six launched in terms of what happened to the $600,000 that was spent on the Brampton U advocacy. You know, they're trying to find something on both the mayor again and on Councillor Santos, because one of the main people who got consulting dollars through an RFP process in the city was one of Councillor Santos's former professors. That's the link, right? That, to me, that's a professional link. She had already gotten that cleared with the other integrity commissioner, saying, "Is there any issue if I vote on things, because this person I know him?" And the integrity commissioner says, "Absolutely not. It's like it's a professional relationship." So, anyways, the Group of Six are trying to find dirt, and so in May they were talking about it, and so they called Nikki Carr, who was the original, I'm not even going to call her whistleblower, because as you all know, I think whistleblower is you have to reach a certain standard to be called. You have to have real evidence.
Well, you have to have evidence. You know, it cost the city $500,000 and there was no evidence. So that's
right.
Not a whistleblower.
And she didn't provide her cell phone, a working cell phone, with the evidence that she was using as part of her claims of corruption at City Hall. Right. Anyways, so she's the one at a staff level that was responsible for Brampton U. So they called her in and started asking her some questions. So here's a question, kind of midway, that Councillor Dillon asked. Here we go.
You know, it appears to me that, well, usually it's my 8th year now as a councillor, and it seems like the process that was used thus far, it's not necessarily a normal process per se. Did you at any time, or did anyone ever make it clear that, you know, we're not using the normal protocol or the process, or that we should do it in a particular order?
There was an incident that took place late January 2020. Councillor Santos called and said I was not enthusiastic about some sort of a delivery. And then she came into CEO's office, and there's witnesses to this. She shouted at me, and I asked, "Why are you speaking like that?" And then she went to the then CEO at the time, Mr. Barrick, and met with him. So I'm not familiar exactly what took place after that. Currently still staff members in the CEO's office that were witness to this as well. So there was a lot of pressure of different types with this particular file.
Can I interrupt you for 1 sec?
There was different levels of pressure with this particular file and involvement, and there are currently staff in the CEO's office that were witness to the incident as well, so they can confirm to why was a particular thing done in a certain way, why was it not done in a certain way.
Right. So from what understanding,
Pressure. Wow. I don't know about you, but I haven't seen too much pressure at City Hall in the 6-7 years that we've been covering, and to be yelled at, oof, that's got to be tough, right? That's
shouted at.
Shouted. Shouted.
If we were City Hall employee staff, Don, I'd be filing integrity commissioner reports against you every day for shouting at me.
Yeah, probably. It's called inducement towards, getting stuff done. But here's the ridiculous part. This integrity commissioner complaint was not even filed by Carr herself. It was actually initiated by Pat Fortini. And here's the thing. Nobody asked Carr if she wanted to file an integrity commissioner report. Nobody asked her. Of those councillors, nobody said, "Do you want to file a integrity commissioner?" They asked human resources. What are they, would they actually take a look at this and do something about it? Instead, Pat Fortini said, "I want to vote to actually send this directly to the integrity commissioner without even any kind of acquiescence by Carr or anybody. He just said, let's put it together and throw it out there. So wasting more taxpayers' money to actually cover this integrity commissioner complaint about shouting at an employee. And he called it bullying. And I'm like, really?
So the integrity commissioner found no basis to find bullying or harassment on Councillor Santos' part. And, Andrew Dragut says, anytime he speaks, somebody should just say no to him 74 times. Interestingly, I didn't keep that clip, but one of the reasons they used for referring this to the integrity commissioner is Councillor Dillon said, "Did you see the body language on Gurpreet Kaur?" I'm thinking he's not the right guy to be making that.
Yeah, no kidding. We covered that in a previous show, but yeah, that was kind of a creepy comment, which we also mentioned at the same time. So, both integrity commissioner reports, they weren't put out as real solid integrity commissioner complaints. They were put out as sour grapes. They were put out, in basically ill-conceived manner to basically stomp on somebody's career, and that's what it was, right?
Yeah, and if you see any news article, it always references, and Councillor Santos is currently under investigation.
Yeah. Of course.
That's the reason they filed it. It's a political stunt so that you get these negative connotations with a councillor that could potentially be used in during the election. And we're going to see more of this at the next council meeting, because the city staff is expected to release a report on Brampton U, and that's something we're going to talk about next, city staff reports, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, be interesting, because I thought there was a 30-day limit that they wanted to get all the stuff together in 30 days. It's been well past 30 days.
Well, interestingly, yeah, they want it done in 30 days. We're probably into the third 30 days. And integrity commissioners, there was a deadline for filing them. I think it was last week. That's why these two came out.
Right.
So I think by law in Ontario, you can't issue integrity commission reports so close to an election. But what this council is doing, they had a staff report, and it might be positive, it might be negative towards councillors or the mayor, who knows? But it's a political stunt. And even Councillor Fortini, when he was saying it, his biggest concern is we need to get this out before the election.
Right. And the thing is, because you can't file an integrity commissioner report, if there's something in there that basically, is a negative connotation, and someone wants to file they can't do it. Right?
Well, and even Councillor Dillon himself, he voted on a motion whenever they met last week regarding the money, the hush money payments, right? He should not have voted because it
exactly.
Right, but he knew that if this was referred to integrity commissioner, they couldn't issue a report until after the election.
Absolutely, 100%. So there's two staff reports, or not two staff reports, two integrity commissioner reports that came out. Blah blah blah. I don't see all the people. I don't see Elaine Moore saying sorry. I don't see any of the councillors saying sorry. And the mayor's asking for an apology. He's not going to get one. Rowena's not going to get one. It's playing politics, but it's costing the taxpayers money for these investigations. That's the problem.
Okay, let's move on, Don. Now let's talk about the barn. But first, we got to mention, a lot of people think we were going after the barn because somehow we didn't like Councillor Bowman. I actually liked, Councillor Bowman and I knew each other a little bit before he even became councillor, because he used to do some mentorship programs with the Canada Summer Jobs. With the Summer Company program. And my son had gone through that. So I have no issue with Councillor Bowman, but I do have some issues with some of the decisions he made. One being the $1 million that was allocated to the barn. So I'll let you cover this, Don, because you know it intimately.
Yeah. So, going forward, he rushed through. Basically, this was rushed through. There was a report that was supposed to be presented to council in September of last year about, it was done by AKA architects, and it was basically $16,000 for to go review the timbers that were sitting there at Sandalwood Parkway, do a report. Was it feasible to actually spend money on this barn to put it together, to put on the Beauvert House site? So it was rushed through. Basically, the six at the time rushed it through, and they allocated $1 million for this barn. $1 million. Right, the barn was bought by the Friends of Beauvert for $20,000. They stored it up at Sandalwood for years and years and years. AKA came in with a report that was never submitted to council. There was a draft, which I have a copy of. The conclusion in that draft basically said the reconstruction is not feasible. There is no way that this barn can be reconstructed. The first report that I got in September that was never presented to council basically had 3 options, and all the options said, I can go into it, but I'll probably write an article on it later and give you the fact. But they all said basically it's going to cost extra. It's going to add time and cost to the project. The full, partial, whatever you want to call it, is not feasible. You're going to have to spend more money on this barn than the timbers are worth, because basically with the salvage material, it's not feasible, right? So financial implications, increase in cost and impact on overall budget, and it would not be a historical building because there's not enough timbers. That was the report that I got in September. Now, I sent in an FOI months ago, and on this report, I think it came back finally 90 days, and it cost me $90 to file an FOI report. Now, funny, this is the report, and this report hasn't been sent to council either. So they do these feasibility studies, they send money on it, but it still hasn't been presented to council, right? So here we go. This is interesting, because on one report it says option 1, 2, and 3 they're going to cost a hell of a lot more money, right, than you expected. Now this one, in this report that I have, it's massaged very nicely. Right, the wording is different. The Robinson barn would be a new construction facing greater challenges from the Department and Heritage Committee. They give the other options, and now they give examples, and they said the restoration of a McEwen barn in the city of Mississauga, it only cost $150,000 to reconstruct. Then they give another one. They talk about, there's impact on time and budget. And it could be a ruined architectural thing, and they cite something else, and they say, there's another project that basically only cost $117,000, and that was
it's completely changed. It's completely changed the narrative from it doesn't make sense to, hey, you know what? It's been done cheaper elsewhere.
Exactly. So in the final report, there's the Mississauga did one for $117,000. There was one done for $115,000. Okay, fine. So why allocate $1 million of taxpayers' money to this stupid barn when basically they're saying in the second report that it only cost $115,000 or $117,000? Why is that money allocated sitting there, $1 million taxpayers' money? That is what pisses me off.
Well, hopefully with the new council, because obviously nothing's been done with the barn. I don't see anything.
The barn's a piece of junk. In both reports, they say basically there's only 6 major timbers that's worse. And here's the thing: Jeff Bowman always said, "Well, it's a city. How did he frame it? It's a city asset." No, the barn is not a city asset. The barn was bought by the Friends of Beauvert. It's got nothing to do with what that city asset is. The city asset is the land that the Beauvert house sits on, and that's it. Anything else on there, the Pendergast cabin, was paid for.
So the barn, isn't it an original structure?
No. The barn was bought in Caledon. It's a Caledon barn.
No, not the barn. The Beauvert house itself.
The Beauvert house itself and the land was actually allocated to the city. The Pendergast house, which is on there, the cabin, that was added after. That's not a city asset. That was something that basically nobody asked about either.
Well, so no, we're getting, you have a different angle with the report in that, like, why did we allocate the $1 million? My angle is, how are these two reports, which you got at 2 different times, neither presented to council? Why are the conclusions so different? It's because
that's the thing. That's the thing. The first report was basically that was the previous CAO put that report together. This report, from what I understand, is the current Paul Morrison report. So they massaged it. It's like, oh, let's make this, instead of like $1 million for this barn, let's massage it. So basically, Mississauga did one for $115,000 and so on. They did one for $117,000, and you can do like this.
And the reports are supposed to be staff uninfluenced by third parties, right?
Right.
So we have clear evidence that this was influenced somehow, right?
Well, somebody said, okay, fine, like give us examples of how much a barn restoration would cost, and they picked the lowest samples. I'm sure I could come up with a sample where it cost $2 to $3 million, because one of the report options in that was to buy another barn that was close to the Caledon barn, put them both together, but then you wouldn't have an historic barn, and then it wouldn't, you've got to do a whole bunch of different. Like, how is that? Like, really? Really?
Yeah. So, what I'm hoping, Don, is the new council, just the first thing they do is, we don't need this barn.
Well, number one, if you're going to do it, like Joe Warmington said, okay, fine, $100,000, okay, historic, okay, fine. If it costs more than $100,000, take the idea out behind the barn and shoot it.
I don't know how you build any structure for $100,000 these days, Don. So,
like a gazebo could cost
and
$20,000.
And I think part of the discussion prior was, why was it costing this much? Is because if the city does something, they have liability. So the thing has to be, solid. It has to be,
you got sprinklers, you got blah 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 blah. What are you going to use it for? They want to use it to showcase farm equipment. There was all sorts of, like we could do tours. How many people run through Bovaird House on an average per year?
I don't even think it's open right now, Don. I passed by it about a month ago.
I think it's open now. It opens in July and closes. It's open, like I've seen it. But, I think the maximum of people that they run through there, I think I saw a number on, which is another report that hasn't been submitted, on the Friends of Bovaird House. I think it was 15,000 or something like that, or maybe they cleared $15,000 in revenue. So, we're not talking about major coin here, but we're going to outlay major coin for this barn, which is a stupid idea to begin with.
All right, so let me see. We got one more comment from Karen. She has never been to the Bovaird House. I have, and you know what? It's an interesting thing to see, especially if you have somebody taught you about it. It's history, but $1 million for a barn? Sorry.
No, it's like, it's an empty barn. If you want to go see a barn, there's tons of abandoned barns north of, basically go up north of Mayfield Road. You can go and see any barn that you want to talk about, right?
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. Enough with the barn. Next time we talk about the barn, Don, hopefully we're talking about a decision on council to cancel the barn.
That would be nice.
All right. So the Canada Summer Jobs Program. So we are nearing the end of the summer, which means we are nearing the end of having our interns with us. And so we tried a lot of things this year, as we do every year, experimentation on how to engage communities and things. So this year, one of the big projects was something called Give Hub, to engage the nonprofit sector into being a little bit more collaborative and communicative to residents, so that they can increase whatever it is they do. So our students yesterday, we had a big meeting. It was actually supposed to be, as you know, Don, because this is one of your big ideas, it was supposed to be a community event and a launch for the program. And when we were talking about it at the beginning of the summer, I actually wanted the Rose Theater. I wanted to fill the Rose Theater with all of these nonprofits from Peel Region and all the people who support it and utilize them. And so our vision was a bit too high for this summer, but it's something we want to do. If it didn't happen this summer, maybe next summer, but definitely sometime soon. We know we can fill the Rose Theater because we've done it in the past. And I didn't have, every year you and I, Don, we
but give a little background, because from our perspective as Brampton Focus as a nonprofit organization, what we have found over the 6-7 years that we've been in existence, a lot of nonprofits siloed. They don't want to actually, correspond or collaborate with other nonprofits. And it seems to be a situation like we met two women that came down to the event last night, and they were with the Brampton Quilters. There was two ladies from Brampton Quilters. They're a nonprofit organization. And I was talking to them for quite a while, and we were talking about, collaboration and this and that and everything else. And they were full. They're trying to build their membership, and that's something that we're, talking to them about how we can help them and so on and so forth. But, we talked about it as something, and she was saying, well, we were trying to partner with this group in Brampton, but it became a situation where, there was too many cooks, too many fingers in the pie, and it just became so much of a hassle. We just said, forget it. We'll go up to Bolton and do our thing with an organization up there. That is the problem with a lot of nonprofit organizations. They take a look and they spend their money on booklets that go nowhere. They have no social media content. If it is social media, it's dull, it's boring, and it's dated. The website is not maintained. Some of the stuff is not relevant for 2 to 3 years. So, these students had a good task. We put them through, a couple of the paces to develop apps and so on and so forth. And this is about a third of the students that we had. So, again, it's like herding cats, and some of them are back in university at this point in time. But I don't know how many came back from a second or third time. I mean, we've had a lot of returning students. So.
And it's a great program. It's a federally run program. So I want to thank our 5 MPs who are involved in the process. They don't actually get to decide who gets what or how much. That's a federal government thing, but they do facilitate the program. And so, even if they weren't liberals and they were part of the opposition, they'd still be able to.
Well, Canada Summer Jobs is non-political. You apply.
But it's I think it's one of the best programs that the government runs. That year when they were handing out money left, right, and center, and they gave money to the We charity I never could understand why they didn't just put more money into the Canada Summer Jobs program rather than this whole new thing with We charity, as we all know, blew up in their face.
Yeah, and the thing is, our students, they go through. We don't yell at them.
Well, you do.
But the thing is, they get experience in social media. Like I said, some of the students, what they did was they developed 2 apps for 2 organizations in Peel region from the ground up, which is kind of good. They did the presentation last night. They set it out. They laid it out. We had nothing to do with that. They did their own thing, and it looked good. It looked professional, and they did a good job. So kudos to the students. There's some very bright students in that group. It's unfortunate that, basically they have to go to university outside of Brampton because we don't have one, which is another thing that we're talking about. But some counselors don't want one, and they're hell bent to make sure that we don't get one. But university towns are, they make a lot of money. They keep talent homegrown here. So that's something that we'll look forward to, that, hopefully the Brampton University does get off the ground and get stuff done.
Yeah. And, one of the things, and I tell this to everybody, even the women who you're talking about from the Coulters, I was talking to them and they were really impressed by our students. And I said, I think every student in Brampton, every student in Canada, young person in Canada, they have so much potential at that age, right? Because there's nothing stopping them. They just need the opportunity. And so we do as much as we can, right? I think combined with the 2 we helped another organization through the application process. Combined with our organization, we mentored 60 students. These are paid students who got great opportunities to learn, and we'll provide references and a little bit of money for their tuition. It doesn't cover tuition, right? You can work 16 weeks in the summer and it doesn't cover tuition.
What we found is, like over the years that we've been doing this, I don't know, 5-6 years that we've been doing it, we get students that sometimes are very shy in the very beginning, and then by the end of the program, because they have to interact with students more than they interact with us. So it's a collaborative effort, and they're put on certain tasks to be able to do. We try and funnel them towards tasks that we think that would be best suited for their talents, and then they go and they run with it. It's like, we're not hovering over them 24/7, but we are sort of directing them and making sure that they do stuff, which is important because you're going to get that if you're going to go and apply for a job. That's a life skill that basically you need to have, and assertiveness and talking and public speaking. That's all part of it as well.
100%. Okay, Don, we are behind schedule now. So the final topic is the municipal election. We can spend some time here. So the slate is now locked in. Who are you voting for?
For what position?
You got anything? You got any locked in position?
No, I don't want to promote any candidate. We don't want to be accused of being a third party advertising. Basically, we have our idea of which candidates that we would like to see in. Obviously, Doug Williams is not running. Jeff Bowman is not running. We have new people running in 7 and 8, 9, 10 as well. Seems to be 2 6s stacking up. There's candidates for that. Some people are going back and forth, or they were going back and forth, which doesn't impress me. If you're going to run for a position, run for that position because you want to do good in that area, or across Brampton if you're running for mayor. But jumping back and forth is doesn't impress me. It's an indecision basically going forward. So yeah, we'll be talking to candidates. We'd love to talk to a candidate. If you're a candidate and you're running and you want to talk about what you're planning to do, you got our contact. All you got to do is contact us. We'll get you on and talk about where you're running and what your platform is, or if you have a platform, or are you just winging it.
I think the Brampton Guardian, they added up the number of candidates. I think there's only like 50 candidates running for all the 11 positions on council, mayor plus a 10, which is actually a low number. But of those 50, maybe 4 of them have contacted us.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I mean, you're going to have people throwing their name and then think that they're, basically going to get it anywhere. But, you and I know the big part of it is door knocking. You have to get out there. Obviously, you see somebody that, registered and they call themselves a community advocate, and me and you have never heard of them at all. And it's like we have our ear to the ground on a regular basis. Who is winging it?
If you're not door knocking right now and watching this, you're winging it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you put your name in and don't do anything, expect people to vote for you just because your name. Well, you better have a really good name recognition going forward. That's what all I got to say, right?
Yeah, and if you're listening to us and somebody knocks on your door in the evening between now and October 24th, at least answer the door and be nice to them, because it is hard work. And the last, I remember I volunteered on one campaign last time. And it was in the middle of the day, and you don't just want to leave the flyer. So you can ring the doorbell once. What I started doing is I'll ring it twice, ding ding, right? It's like, oh, so I'm walking away, and then somebody opens up the door and starts yelling at me, and he said, "Why did you do that? Why did you do that?" I was napping, because I guess he has a night shift or something. It's like, and I don't know. I thought he was going to come after me, so. I personally don't like door knocking. Anybody that does it, that's what you got to do to win, right? You got to door knock. I don't like it. That's why I'm not running for nothing.
And that's why if you ran in the previous election, you didn't run this. It makes you build it. You build it over time. And if you're going to be an advocate and you want to change stuff, it's something that you have to do. It takes a long, hard commitment. And I know, Faz, we've been doing this. We started Brampton Focus in the end of 2014. And we've been doing it ever since. And it's, people criticize us, blah, 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 blah. You have all the detractors. But at the same time, we're still doing it, while a lot of people that we had talked to and criticized us said, yeah, we're going to keep, bugging you, blah, blah. And all you hear is basically troll stuff from them on social media.
Remember last time we ran the mayoral debate?
Yep.
And I think there was 8 mayoral candidates, but we only chose 4 to be.
I think there was more than that. I think there was 9.
9. So we only chose the top, was it 3, top 4? Because
top 4.
The other ones there's no way they were going to win, right? And so they all contacted us, and they all said, yeah, I'm going to, regardless of what happens, I'm going to stay active.
Yeah.
How many of them stayed active? 0.
0. 0. And the problem is, it's like, we put on that debate. That was our own money. That was our own time. You want to run a debate, run your own debate. Or if you want your friends to run a debate, run your own debate. The Brampton Board of Trade, I know they run kind of a debate. I don't know what it's called, a debate. It's really, to me, it's a waste of time. We've run through that gauntlet before. But what do we got here? It looks like Canada is short of worthwhile and useful charity, non-for-profit, other than high-profile way. This smells something. Well, you know what? Like I said, Nat, there's a lot of charitable. I think last night the student said there was 200 nonprofits in Peel, where we had someone else in. It's more like 2,000, right? But
I think they had their list of 200 that they were working all summer. But yeah, there's a lot of small ones, and I actually think the small ones are better because it's typically 100% volunteer driven, and they're doing something that's really needed in their local community.
Let's take a look at the people that, like the women last night, the Brampton Quilters. I mean, it's an organization that basically, quilting is not a big thing, but I was talking to them and they say, oh no, we do a lot more different things. We're not just quilting, and we're trying. This is where organizations, they don't know how to get their message out, because basically they're all volunteer organizations that are driven by, maybe they meet once a month, once every 2 weeks or something like that. They don't know how to go to the next step. And that's what Give Hub is. We'll be explaining that further. And next year we'll be taking that further to help nonprofit organizations.
Well, we called it the Give Hub this year, Don, but you and I have been working with nonprofits ever since we started.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And we'll continue to do that. But we just want to make it something that we can help organizations, like train them to do it themselves, right? Like anybody can do what we're doing, but nobody's doing it.
Well, because it is, Well, number one, it is, you have to have the commitment, but you have to know the technology. You have to understand it.
And that's not rocket science, and it gets easier and easier every day.
No.
Right?
And but for some it's a challenge, and that's the big thing for nonprofits, and they don't interact, and they don't collaborate. And collaboration is the biggest part. I know Mayor Hazel McCallion, when we interviewed her about talking about different organizations, and she said one of the big things is they silo, and that's what we've been saying for years. They have their money, they get federal funding or provincial funding, and then they disappear, right? I mean, this is a big mistake for nonprofits. You have to be relevant. I remember Lab B?
No, because they're gone.
No, but I remember Lab B. They got a federal grant. They got
a provincial grant. It was like
provincial grant. They were running out of the old. What was that building in downtown Brampton? The old, I forget what they call it, but it was an old building down there. It was run by several students that sort of started this in university. But after 3 years, their funding ran out and they did nothing. And it's like their funding was canceled.
Yeah.
You can't build on something if I don't know what they did. There was like a Lab B for startups, and they were trying to help startups on the mill. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I think one of the challenges there, Don, was because one of the opportunities there was for the city to help them. Well, what did the city do? I think the city started competing with them.
Right, and that's the problem as well that we understood, because the city has now their version of Lab B, which is called what do they call it?
There's a lot of them now.
Yeah, there's a Crucible and this and that and everything else. So
well, they have their own space. The city has their own space,
right,
which
they have their own space
to run
for
their program
collaboration.
Doesn't cost them anything.
Right. So I mean, it's great that the city does stuff, but it costs the taxpayers when an organization like this could actually do stuff, right?
Yeah.
Right. So
and even yesterday, I was saying we ran our event at the Alderlea House. We got the nonprofit rate, which was about $300, which was fantastic because it's a great facility. But then we couldn't bring in our own food. We had to use the third-party caterers, and for basic coffee and cookies, the bill was going to be $1,500.
Yeah.
So you got the city helps, but they have to kind of think through the whole.
And I've heard that from nonprofits time and time again in regards to what the city charges for venues. I mean, going back a bit, I mean, Carabram, I remember they were complaining that some of the city facilities that they were using were charging full price, and there was no air conditioning in arenas and this and that and everything else. But that's why I think the city could do a better job. Yes, they have to get money for venues, but if it's a nonprofit doing stuff, there's got to be a give and take along that line.
Yeah. Okay, Don, we're way over. Our goal with the program always was to stay like 20 minutes. We were slowly inching up to an hour now, Don.
It's 7:07.
You round it off, Don. It's an hour.
That's an hour. That's a half an hour.
It's an hour.
Anyway,
don't yell at me, Don. Don't yell at me.
Catering rates have gone through the roof. Yeah.
Okay, Don, I'm going to cut you off.
All right. So listen, next Tuesday, I don't think we're going to be on next Tuesday. It's probably going to be delayed till Wednesday again because of there's a couple of conflicting schedule things that we have from both me and Faz. So we're going to schedule it for next Wednesday for sure. And we will see you then. And between now and Wednesday, I'm sure there's more exciting things happening in Brampton and the Peel region. Thank you for joining us. And Faz,
adios.